Hey everyone, this is Dr. Andy Barlow with the Barlow Brain and Body Institute, and today we're going to talk about how to actually implement frozen shoulder and frozen shoulder syndrome as a niche marketing strategy to add revenue to your clinic. So to start with, I wanted to say the best thing to do is to go online to barlowbrainandbody.com, and we can see here on the top row Neuro Reconnect Upper Extremities, May 20th, 21st, 22nd, Conroe, Texas. All you have to do is click right there and it will register you for the seminar. And what we want to talk about tonight is actually how to implement frozen shoulder as a new niche marketing program into your clinic. Now, I will show you at this seminar how we get results in 2 visits. So if a patient can actually get their arm to 90 degrees, you should be able to get this person to 100% range of motion within 1 to 2 visits. If I can't do that, I give the patient a full refund, no questions asked. The most I've ever given back in 1 year is 4, but these people had more of adhesive capsulitis than anything else. So if a patient comes into your clinic and they're complaining of frozen shoulder and they can get it 90 degrees, you should be able to help, and I do mean help, get full range of motion within 1 to 2 visits with these patients. Now, one of the things that you have to understand too is that we have to stop looking at just the blinking light. Typically these people, when patients come in, they don't just have a frozen shoulder. That's the main, that's the chief complaint that these people are going to have. But they can also have numbness in the hand. I had a gentleman come in last week. He was in stage 3 Alzheimer's, and he had peripheral neuropathy, frozen shoulder, and he was in stage 3 Alzheimer's. And so again, we have to stop looking at just one area and saying this person just has one problem, because they very seldom ever do. Also, at my upper extremity seminar, kind of the frozen shoulder is, think of it like a keynote speaker. I was speaking at Tupelo High School a couple of weeks ago, and there were a couple of speakers, but I was the keynote speaker at the high school event. With the frozen shoulder, it's kind of like the keynote speaker, but there's other things we're going to be teaching you as well. Like, for example, in the brachial plexus, we can actually have 3 areas of entrapment that's called plexopathies that can actually cause problems into the shoulder, elbow, and in the hands, and we have to know how to treat this. Also, the axillary nerve, peripheral nerve, has an entrapment site. We need to know how to test and treat that area. And each one of the peripheral nerves, radial nerve, median nerve, and ulnar nerve, all 3 of these nerves have 3 entrapment sites. So it's a lot of information that we're going to get over this upper cervical, not upper cervical, but cervical and upper extremity seminar this weekend. And a lot of times doctors get caught up in, oh, it's a frozen shoulder seminar. Yes, it is, but there's multiple other things that go along with that. And also I'm going to show you how to activate muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs in the cervical spine and the anterior and posterior muscle groups that if you're going to adjust a patient, it would be advantageous to know these muscles, because it's going to make your adjustment much more easier. So the one thing that's extremely important is when a patient comes in with frozen shoulder or shoulder problem, the first thing I'm going to ask them is, tell me about your first car wreck. And don't ask them, have you ever had a car wreck? Because in their mind, if it's minor, if they went to the emergency room and they said you're normal, which means you ain't dead yet to a medical doctor. And so it's just, we got to get past that. It's, you're normal. Normal just means you're not pathological yet or dead yet. And so when people go to the emergency room, unless they have a cracked skull or hemorrhaging or dislocate something, they're going to be normal. But research shows that when people have whiplash injuries, C5, which we should have a lordosis in our neck, C5 will either straighten or it can actually reverse at the cervical spine. C5 is the apex of that loss of lordosis. C5 is also the nerve that comes out that controls all of your muscles and your shoulder except for 3 of those muscles, which is going to be your long head of your tricep, C7, also latissimus dorsi, C7, and the pec major, which is C7. All other muscles that control your shoulder right there at C5. So very important question to ask patients, okay, is, I don't even ask the question, just tell me about your first car wreck you had. And then if you'll keep your mouth shut and just go, tell me about the next car wreck, tell me about the next car wreck, tell me about accidents that you had in high school, because see what happens is, I don't mean to get too much into leaky gut and transition from frozen shoulder to leaky gut, but when we have trauma in the neck that may have happened 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and now people are having, they started having shoulder problems 6 months ago, and it's a frozen shoulder, and they've been to 2 different orthopedic clinics. They don't know what to do except surgery. And then we start talking about a concussion, okay, and they're not going to relate the headache to a concussion because they were, quote, normal. Nothing was wrong with them. And then you look at their neck and go, wow, this C5 is degenerated to the point where it appears as though you have about 20 years worth of degeneration here, or 30, or whatever they have. And we know that these nerves come out of the neck and go to the shoulder. Now, the key component with leaky gut is research shows within hours, not days, weeks, or years, but within hours. A lot of research shows within 6 hours after a concussion, you actually start the leaky gut domino effect. Within about 7 days or so, you can have, actually, most people have a full onset of leaky gut syndrome, like no longer digesting their food properly, belching, gastric reflux, those types of things. So see, when you understand these mechanisms, you stop just looking at the frozen shoulder. What's linked to this frozen shoulder? C5. What can cause a C5 problem? A car wreck, which leads to a concussion, which leads to leaky gut. So we got a shoulder problem, neck pain, leaky gut, which can lead to depression, anxiety, and insomnia. So see how you wrap this whole thing up. And if you're kind of like, wow, I'm in a tailspin here, I don't even know what's going on, because I thought we were talking about a frozen shoulder. This is the difference between learning from me than learning from other healthcare professionals. Is I'm a board certified chiropractic neurologist. I carry a diplomate and a fellowship in functional neurology, and I understand how to link this chief complaint, okay, to the gut, to the brain, and then how we can actually serve the patient at the highest level possible instead of just looking at the blinky light. So another key thing that you want to ask a patient when they come in with a frozen shoulder, whether they put down neck pain or not, is ask me about your neck. Also ask me about your neck. Tell me about your neck. Tell me about if you have headaches. Okay, tell me if you have problems between your shoulder blades. The reason is the dorsal scapular nerve comes directly off the C5 nerve root, and that controls your rhomboid major and minor. So see how we put this whole picture together. And then if a patient just wants to do their frozen shoulder program, it's $4,950. And if we don't get results in 2 visits, full refund. However, if we do get those results, then you may or may not need regenerative medicine, which is an additional fee to that. And then if you want me to address your focus, attention, and concentration, and your bloating and gastric reflux, all of that's going to be an add-on fee too. So see how we can we learn to stop looking at the blinky light, and we actually start treating the entire person. And this is where, I don't care whether you're a chiropractor, a medical doctor, nurse practitioner, this is where all healthcare has failed, is they go in and just look at the blinky light, the chief complaint, and then the doctor just looks dumbfounded as though they think that's the only problem this person has. And the answer to that is hardly ever is this just that problem, meaning they come in with a frozen shoulder just like a person who comes in with peripheral neuropathy. If you're just treating their peripheral neuropathy with some kind of stimulation and lights, you're doing a person a huge disservice, because there's other things going on, like balance disorders. If they can't feel their feet, that means that their brain, their parietal lobe, is not getting adequate stimulation. The parietal lobe not getting adequate stimulation fires anterior to the frontal lobe, and you have to have a healthy functioning parietal lobe because it's presynaptic to the frontal lobe to keep the frontal lobe active, which when it decreases in its function, focus, attention, concentration, depression, anxiety, and insomnia, and then we start to get into these stages of Alzheimer's. So the point here is today is you're going to learn a lot of information at this seminar. We're going to learn frozen shoulder and a recap, and then we're going to be finished. Frozen shoulder And we're going to be learning that at C5 in the neck, how can it get damaged? It can get damaged multiple ways. It can get damaged through a car crash. It can get damaged because somebody was on a ladder at home and fell 10 feet and landed on their butt, whatever. Okay, I've had people come in that were cheerleaders. They get thrown up in the air and get missed, and bam, they hit their butt on the ground, and then that force from falling on their butt, and then gravity pushing down. This is called ulnar buckling syndrome. It's an engineering term, which means like if you take this pin, and if I had this pin, say this is the floor, and I hit it from the top, what will happen is this pin, if you hit it hard enough, it'll actually buckle and warp. And in the cervical spine, that ulnar buckling can actually happen at C5, and it could just be because they fell on their butt. They may have been ice skating 20 years ago. I don't know. Okay, that's your job as the doctor to quit looking at protocols and be a detective and figure out why is this person coming in with a frozen shoulder. And then what else is linked to that frozen shoulder? So let's keep it simple. Car crash 20 years ago. These people literally come into my clinic, all right? And they go to the emergency room, everything's normal. Okay, and then 20 years later, they come into the clinic, they've got a kyphotic neck, they've got a frozen shoulder, they've got depression, can't sleep, and they've got malabsorption issues, gut, gastric reflux. Now, if you choose to want to just treat the shoulder, that's on you, but I don't do that, okay? Yes, I treat the frozen shoulder, and then we treat everything else that we find in the exam. C5, how does it get damaged? Car crash, trauma. Okay. Also, C5 controls all the muscles in your shoulder except for 3. We went over those at the seminar. We're going to talk about the 3 entrapment sites that can cause plexopathies. We're going to talk about the muscles that actually entrap the axillary nerve for shoulder pain. And each one of the peripheral nerves, radial, median, and ulnar, have 3 entrapment sites into the hand. And here's the caveat. Almost everyone that comes into your clinic, whether they have plexopathy or an entrapment syndrome, I don't care if it's in the radial nerve, they're going to come in and tell you that they have carpal tunnel syndrome. I've got numbness in the hand. And you go, okay, well, show me where the numbness is. And they go, it's all over my hand. That's not carpal tunnel syndrome. And give me just a second, I'll be right out. And sorry, I'm still seeing some patients at the end of the day here. So you just because somebody says I have carpal tunnel, you've got to ask them, show me where this numbness and tingling is. If they go over the whole hand, it's not going to be carpal tunnel. I'm going to show you how to differentiate between prohereditary and true carpal tunnel syndrome, and regardless of which one of the entrapment sites they have, we actually have a program through the shockwave, laser therapy, and through the neural reconnect to actually release these areas and actually get sensation back into the extremities. I'm Dr. Andy Barlow. I look forward to seeing you at the next seminar. Have a great day.